members. Both men are in stable condition tonight in an intensive care unit. Last Saturday evening, they were seriously injured. Elder Brad Green of Cedar City had just completed his mission and was with his parents, Garth and Wendy, touring in a car when they inadvertently drove into a dangerous section of the city. They told family members they were approached by a gang of men. Elder Green saw that one of the men had a gun and shouted for his father to go, but the men opened fire. He and his father were both shot several times. Family members here say they had no idea such a thing could happen.
Of course, we were worried when they went to Brazil because it is a dangerous place, but we figured they'd be safe. Brad had been there for 2 years, and he knew his way around a bit, and they weren't going to really go to any too awful places. They were just going to go and see the people that Brad had met.
Now, there's no word yet on when the Greens will be able to return to the States. Michael Purdy, a spokesman for the Church of Jesus Christ, says there are currently no missionaries serving in that area of Rio de Janeiro where this incident occurred. Tonight, after being shot in one of Rio de Janeiro's worst slum areas. Fox 13's Joe Wren is live at the LDS office building. Okay, Joe, how did this happen?
Well, family members tell us a wrong turn, Hope, nearly cost these two men their lives. And tonight, they're crediting faith and some good Samaritans with help to pull them through.
The people pulled out guns, and my brother said go. And right as my dad pushed on the gas, my mom's account is that the window shattered and my dad went limp.
Garth and Wendy Green arrived in Rio Thursday to pick up son Bradley from his LDS mission. But after taking a wrong turn into a high-crime neighborhood, several gunmen opened fire on the family as the Greens tried to drive away.
As they made it off the freeway, he couldn't control the car, and they crashed into a house.
Now, Garth and Bradley were both shot several times. That's when an uninjured Wendy came to their aid.
After they had crashed, my mom tried to, stop my father's bleeding in his arm, and as she did that, she prayed. When she said amen, up drove a van. We don't know who they are. We just know that they're heroes.
Now, those heroes, whom the family hasn't seen since, chased off the bandits and drove the Greens to a local hospital. Church officials say missionary work will continue as usual in Brazil. Elder Nick Hines of Sandy will fly to Rio tomorrow to begin his mission. Says he's unfazed by the potential danger.
Going on a mission, it's a big part of your life, and I'm sure he was doing everything he was supposed to. But, getting shot, it's kind of a small price to pay for the work you're doing out on your mission.
Now, while both men are listed in intensive care right now, they are also listed in stable condition, so that bodes pretty well for them, doctors are saying. In fact, Garth, family members told me tonight that Garth could be released within the next couple of days, Hope.
All right, Joe, Bradley Green has a brother about to leave on a mission. How does the family feel about that?
Well, he's headed to a fairly safe area in Australia, so they're not too concerned about that. The problem is the young man is going to leave in about a month, and he was hoping to have a little bit of a reunion with his brother Bradley before that time, but obviously Bradley is going to be laid up in a hospital for at least another week before they can all get together as a family.
All right, Joe Wren reporting live. Thanks. Contact with the mission in Rio this afternoon. What are they saying about this, Larry?
Well, they're saying that both father and son are now out of danger. They're both stable and hope to be able to travel back to Utah in the next week or so. Bradley Green's Rio mission was ending last week. He'd had a great time and was showing his parents around Rio when they made a wrong turn. The parents and Bradley wound up in a slum. Bradley and his dad were shot by robbers.
The father had, even though he was hurt severely, went past the car, drove back onto the freeway, took the next exit, and then the shock took over.
At that second exit, residents grabbed the Greens and drove them to a hospital. Green was shot in the arm, stomach, and liver. Garth Green was hit in the arm and chest. But at the family business in Cedar City today, the mood is upbeat.
We do know that my brother is sitting up in the hospital bed and is doing good that way, and my dad is also stable and good, and so, we don't really worry about it.
It turned out much better than could have been expected. Everyone is just very grateful that it's turned out as well as it has.
Now, the area the Greens mistakenly turned into is one of the worst slums in Rio. The LDS Church does not let missionaries work in that area.
And Larry, how is Mrs. Green doing, kind of caught in the middle of all this?
Indeed. Her children in Cedar City say she was pretty shaken up immediately after the shootings, but is doing well now and looking forward to getting her wounded husband and son home to Cedar. And she's already let it be known that she's not going to go pick up her other son at the end of his mission.
All right, Larry. Rio is notorious for its rampant crime, especially in its fast-growing slums.
Missionary and his parents attacked in Rio de Janeiro come home. Good evening. The Green family homecoming is our top story.
Elder Bradley Green had just finished serving an LDS mission in Brazil. He and his parents were touring Rio de Janeiro when they took a wrong turn, that is. Elder Green and his father, Garth, were both shot. The Greens were released earlier this week from a hospital in Brazil, and today they came home to Cedar City where family and friends were waiting. It was a very emotional reunion.
We have felt those prayers, and we know that they were answered.
There is not a nicer people in the world than the Brazilian people.
The Greens were able to fly right to Cedar City because John Huntsman's private jet picked them up in Miami and brought them home.
Now, the Green family says they are thankful to be back at home, surrounded by their loved ones again. And they are spending their first day quietly at their Cedar City home, but they did take some time to talk with News 4 Utah's Jill Young. She is joining us live now from Cedar City. How are they doing, Jill?
Well, Randall, considering everything they've been through, they're doing pretty good emotionally, but, you know, physically it's going to take a long time to recover. It was a bittersweet homecoming this morning for Garth Green and his son Bradley. Garth says he doesn't blame the Brazilian people for what happened to he and his son.
They apologize every time we see them. They did nothing wrong. This was the act of two men acting solely on their own.
Garth says he's glad his son is finally home and that he served an honorable mission.
We're glad to have our son Brad home. He has served a wonderful mission, but it's done, son. It's all over. Good job.
Elder Green described exactly what happened the day they were shot.
We took the exit, and he says he just kind of signaled and jumped and went off the thing. And he figured he maybe hadn't given him enough time, maybe kind of made him mad for jumping in front of him. About the time, we don't know whether the shot started first or whether the car did. But about that time, something yelled "go" in my dad's
that much.
ear. This one would have hit my head if my arm wasn't up, and this one would have hit my heart.
He says if it hadn't been for the good people of Brazil, he and his father would have been left there to die.
They hooked up a bunch of Brazilians, and they threw him in the van, and I climbed in the back seat, and they rushed us off to the hospital in the area. And they saved our life. They really did. We thought we were dead for sure.
Green was shot 3 times, and his son Bradley twice.
The other one went in my thorax on the left side, right back here, and we ended up pulling it out back here in the liver, right outside the liver. After it stopped when it hit my rib.
But even after such a shocking experience, Elder Green says he'd go back to Rio in a heartbeat.
If we die, it was meant to be. If we don't, then it was meant to be as well, and we have to learn something from it. So it's all part of life.
Well, so you can see Elder Green certainly has a good attitude about the whole thing. Randall?
It looks like they have a little recuperating to do, but do they have any future plans now?
Well, actually, it's just bed rest, getting a ton of rest and recovering. And then Elder Green did joke a little bit. He said, you know, I've been pressured already to do a little dating and then get married, so.
Sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Jill.
I don't know. Randall.
Elder Brad Green completed his mission several weeks ago, but his return home was delayed while touring Rio de Janeiro at night with his parents. The three inadvertently drove into an extremely dangerous section of the city where Brad and his father were shot several times by a gang of men. The two have spent the past couple of weeks in the hospital recovering. Brad's mother was not injured. Elder Green says they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We went down the wrong road. It was raining and we didn't see the sign. They didn't want us there. That's about what happened.
Brad's family says they're just glad to be back home in Cedar City. The LDS Church says there are no other missionaries currently serving in that region.
His father are glad to be back home in Cedar City tonight. Brad's parents had gone to pick him up after his LDS mission to Brazil when the attack occurred. Fox 13's Lane Lyon has the story of their emotional homecoming.
Tears of joy for a family coming home.
It feels wonderful to be home.
From a tarmac in Cedar City, 21-year-old Bradley Green remembers the shooting many miles from home. Green was completing an LDS mission in Rio de Janeiro when the attack happened. His parents were there to pick him up. Bradley and his father were shot several times. Garth Green had this message for waiting reporters.
This was the act of two men acting solely on their own. We love the Brazilian people. They are kind and they are humble. They have been hurt badly.
Emotions are still running high. For Wendy Green, who was not injured, it was a strong belief in their faith, she says, that helped them through it all.
God loves us. He loved all of his children. He knows about us. And he preserved our lives that night.
Now that he's home, Bradley Green says he's ready to move on with his life.
Well, I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to work and get married and do all those things that returned missionaries do.
And for he and his family, it is the start of a new appreciation, perhaps, for life itself.
It's done, son. It's all over.
Lane Lyon, Fox 13 News, Utah.
As is the case in many LDS families, with one missionary returning home, another leaves. The Greens have another son about to begin his mission in Australia.
Cedar City tonight. Elder Bradley Green and his dad, Garth, flew back from Brazil early today. The two men were shot March 13th during a robbery in Rio de Janeiro. That's where Elder Green was serving his mission. For Utah Nightside's Joe Young was in Cedar City today for the homecoming.
It was a bittersweet homecoming this morning for Garth Green and his son Bradley. Garth says he doesn't blame the Brazilian people for what happened to he and his son. Garth says he's glad his son is finally home and that he served an honorable mission.
We're glad to have our son Brad home. He has served a wonderful mission.
Both Garth and Elder Green have extensive recovery ahead of them, but they are grateful to be home safe tonight.
A Utah missionary and his father are making a special donation to some people who saved their lives. The two were brutally attacked while in Brazil 6 months ago. Elder Brad Green had just completed his mission, and his parents were with him as they toured Rio de Janeiro in a car. They inadvertently entered a dangerous area of the city, and they were shot at 5 times by a gang of men. Just as they were praying for help, a van of Americans pulled up and took father and son to an intensive care unit. Today, the Greens donated handmade hospital gowns to the makeshift emergency room where their lives were saved.
A public facility, what I like to call a MASH unit, a very good facility, but with very poor accommodations, if you will, struggling to provide a free service to the people there of Brazil.
The gowns were made by some of their fellow church members and are a gift for people hospitalized in Rio de Janeiro.
Late with us tonight, an injured LDS missionary and his father are back home in Cedar City tonight.
The two were shot in Brazil early last week. It happened March 12th in Rio de Janeiro in a slum-ridden section of the inner city. Police say that it was a robbery attempt. Fields Mosley has more on today's happy homecoming.
Cool. And I'm going to work and get married and do all those things that return missionaries do.
But this homecoming is anything but normal. Bradley Green and his parents are survivors.
They stopped us and started shooting, and we started driving.
2 weeks ago in Rio, they took a wrong turn. The shooters hit Bradley and his father, Garth.
The whole time I've just kind of said to myself, man, you know, when is this going to end? And it was great to see it really, you know, end.
Bradley's brother Jeff likes to see life get back to normal at the family business and at home, where family members have been preparing for the return.
It's bad and all, but it was meant to be.
Bradley takes a philosophical view of what happened. He still is getting his bearings after 2 years away, and he has one more thing he wants to start doing.
I hope to start dating. Don't know if I have the energy for that yet, but I hope to start that back up. I move on with life, start over.
We want to wish Bradley and his family the best of luck. They feel that missions are important, life-changing experiences and that bad things can happen just about wherever you go in this world. In fact, Bradley's youngest brother is leaving on a mission to Australia very soon. Fields Mosley, 2 News in Cedar City.
Bradley and his parents flew to Miami from Rio last night. There they boarded John Huntsman's private plane for the trip back to Cedar City.